Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this day of life. I want to thank you, Father, for bringing us to this place safely today to do the business of our people. Father, I want to pray for our country, all those, Father, that are hurting. And there's many, many out there that need help, and you know all about it. I pray that you bless them and comfort them as only you can. I pray, Father, that you'll be with our leaders, be with the chairperson, each of us. Help us do good work for our people, Father, and forgive us where we fail. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joe. Roll call.
Meredith Braley.
Here.
Buell Anglin.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Bezer.
Here.
Julia Coates. Bradley Cox. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
Tina Glory Jordan. Present. Curtis Snell. Chris Soap.
Here.
David Thornton.
Here.
Kara Cowan Watts.
Honey.
We do have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Purpose today is discussion and possible action on amendments to the election code. And our esteemed attorney, Todd Henry.
Yes, after reviewing the minutes of the last meeting, there's a couple of items that we need to touch upon that were tabled. First, at the end of the meeting, according to the minutes and from what I remembered, council person Joe Crittenden wanted to revisit section 21A4. And if you look in your packet or your book, we're talking about that'll be the first page of the proposed amendments. Okay. Now, section, if that's the will of the body, we can revisit that right now, or
Any objections? Please proceed.
okay. That section states as follows: persons convicted of a felony under the laws of the United States of America or any state, territory, or possession thereof, or convicted of a crime in any tribal court of any federally recognized Indian tribe that would be considered a felony in state or federal court, unless such person has received a pardon from an authorized official of the jurisdiction in which the conviction received, shall be ineligible to vote. Now, this amendment was defeated the last, or no action was taken the last meeting, but it has been asked to be reconsidered.
Commissioner
I
Hopkins.
was referring to Councilor Crittenden. I just had a question. Go ahead, Councilor.
I just think it ought to be in there. That's just my personal thought. I believe that it's the right thing to have in there, and that's my position. If the rest of the council sees differently, that's fine. That is my position on it, though, but I think it should be part of the law.
Mr. Hopkins.
That answers my question. I just wanted some clarity that this is not in the act as it stands. This would be an amendment.
This would be a new amendment. It's not part of the current election law.
I mean, I think Councilor Crittenden's in good company, because I think a lot of jurisdictions around the country have this, and I don't know if you've had occasion to research it or not, Todd. It is fairly common among states to have some provision that keeps you from voting if you have a felony. Isn't that right?
Yeah. I mean, I would hesitate to say how many states, but it's not uncommon for a state to have that type of prohibition.
My viewpoint is that I think there's merits on Councilor Crittenden's side. I do think that, you know, we have criminal law, we have punishment, we don't let them out of jail, hopefully, till we think they've served their time. And the question is this just additional punishment? I mean, this is a pretty significant right. We're talking about stripping from someone who might have committed a felony, served their time, and then we've enjoyed the benefits of them being a productive member of society after they've gotten out of jail, but we don't want to extend them the right to vote. And I've always been a little troubled by that. And so, some jurisdictions limit it to why you're in jail. Certainly you can't vote. In other jurisdictions, I think maybe Oklahoma's one, you can't vote during the time of your maximum sentence. So if you could have at a maximum served 25 years, you don't get the vote for 25 years. But if you got out after 10, then you're still going to be without the vote for that 25 years. So there's sort of some middle ground to be reached. So I have a little bit of hesitation extending a punishment that I think is pretty significant if we also think they've paid their debt. So I'm not inclined to support it, but I'm open to other ideas. Thank you.
John, and then Joe.
Yeah, and this is one of the few times that my good friend from Major County and I disagree. Folks, we've got a lot of young Cherokees that come from extremely poor backgrounds, or at least we do in Cherokee and Adair County. And if their parents cannot get them competent representation, many times they are convicted when a non-Indian would not be convicted. And and there's a mentality out there that, within the Cherokees that, if you do something wrong, you're going to pay for it. And sometimes grandma just wants them to go ahead and get in trouble and go on. And I think that we would be punishing again for maybe an error of their youth that, had they had representation, they wouldn't have been convicted anyway. And then the flip side of this deal is the election commission trying to figure out how to enforce it. Because the only way you're going to know is if they say, yeah, I'm a convicted felon. Short of that, I don't think we're going to have folks going through the national databases and tribal databases trying to figure out whether Joe Stick ever was convicted of a felony in Arizona or whatever. And I think this is something that is not necessary and would undutifully punish some of our citizens that we're here to serve.
Mr. Crittenden?
I just can see people refer to a slippery slope or whatever. I mean, if we're going to use the rule of thumb that, well, they were poor and they didn't mean to do it, or bless their little heart, are we going to allow them to run and serve? I mean, that's a provision in being able to hold office. So I don't see any difference in it myself. That's a sort of hard line, I suppose. But I think there ought to be penalties involved in breaking the law. And that's just my position now. I may be the only one that feels that way, but that is my position.
Connie?
Well, with respect to the Honorable Councilman from Adair County, because I do have a great amount of respect for you,
Okay.
I would respectfully disagree, because I think, one, cost involved in determining who can vote and who couldn't vote would be astronomical, because I have no knowledge that we have a hook with the state of Oklahoma or the federal government or all the other states to determine who in our membership may have been convicted of a felony. So cost is a great decision factor here for me. The next thing, I do believe in a second chance. And I do believe if you leave prison and you become a productive citizen, that we should give you some of the rights back that other citizens enjoy. The third reason I would have concern about this is I think it rises or gives a reason to challenge our election. Would the number of felons that possibly might have slipped through our system of checking have caused a separate or different outcome in an election? So I don't believe in creating that loophole either. So with respect, I would have to say I would have to be against this also.
That's okay.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that this section not be included in our election laws.
I second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. Now further discussion. Mr. Thornton?
Yes, I've got to say that I kind of agree with my colleague from Adair County over here. What about these people that are poor, that's gone to school and kept their nose clean and went ahead and made something out of themselves, and they're going through life and everyday adventures, and they didn't go out here and be kicked out of the house and rob somebody or kill somebody. I'm more or less, thinking that way, and we have programs out here. We've got housing programs and different programs that if you're a felon, you can't even fight. I mean, if you're going to give somebody a second chance, let's give them all a second chance. Let's do it. Let's just go all the way. And if we're not, well then, I'm not for sure if they need to vote. But that's just the way I feel. Thank you.
Harley?
No, I didn't have my hand up, but I would make a comment on it, since you recognize me. But I heard both sides of the stories here, and I can relate to what Mr. Crichton's saying and what Mr. Thornton's saying, but I've also heard what Councilor Jordan and Councilor Baker said. Some of this stuff goes back in some of our families here. I one time had an uncle that was caught moonshining years ago. He was convicted of a felon. But the guy went on to be a preacher and was well known across the 14 counties here in Cherokee Nation, was an upstanding citizen. So, with that being said, I would support taking this out of the code and letting them vote.
Ms. Count Watts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I initially supported this, and then when I heard the initial comments and then the side conversations outside the room when it came up, I had to think harder on it and in a different manner. And like Councilman Hoskins, if I were to even support it, it would be something to the effect that it would have to be along their sentencing guidelines and not after, because then they have paid their debt. But even then, the League of Women Voters for the state of Oklahoma did a study, and not only minorities, which would include us, of course, as Cherokees, but women, and especially, there's like a $50 cutoff for felony. For as little as $50, I believe, in the state of Oklahoma, you can become a felon. And it's very disturbing because we have like one of the highest rates of felon incarcerations for women and minorities in any 50 states. I totally understand, because obviously how I feel about sex offenders and those things, and I actually really believe in making sure that punishment fits the crime and such. But on this, we get into just whether or not this election commission can actually administer that, and whether we're calling the elections. But I totally understand what you're talking about, Councilor Crittenden. I really appreciate what you had to say, because I feel for that. But I don't know logistically how we would be able to do that, and I think there's a lot of other issues we could never resolve that already bias this particular population. But I would be very interested before we cast a vote, and I would guess the body's already decided, but I would be interested if the chair and the body would so inclined to hear possibly from the election commission on this issue before we actually decide.
Anybody object to that?
And they may not have an
the
opinion.
election commission like to come
The
forward?
only opinion that I would have.
Come on up here under the microphone.
And I think I could speak for, I'm sorry.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Roger Johnson. I'm the new chairman of the election commission. I would like to make the announcement that we are officially a commission now. At our last meeting last month, Brenda was sworn in, Brenda Walker was sworn in, and we selected officers at that time, and the three ladies decided that I would be the chairman. Very democratic election.
For Cherokee.
Brenda Walker is the vice chairman, Martha is the secretary treasurer, and Patsy and Curtis are members. But anyway, we're a fully sworn-in group now and ready to do the work of the citizens of the nation. I was sitting back there listening to what was being said about the issue of convicted felons. And the first thing that comes to my mind, and I don't know that I can speak for all the other members of the commission, but this is my own opinion, and that is that most people that are hardcore convicted felons don't have a big interest in voting anyway. I mean, they're not citizens that we would think would be interested, in the political process. And so I think it would just be very, very few of the citizens that would fall into that category that would even vote. And to me, it's just kind of a mute issue. I guess that's all I have to say.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Hoskin?
I appreciate Mr. Johnson's comments. I don't have any questions for him, but I just wonder if,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I just wonder if Councilman Crittenden would, because I might be inclined to support it if it was along the lines of some of the other rules I've seen in other jurisdictions about only to the extent of sentence. And Todd, you may want to help me on the wording here, but if we struck the last period and added the sentence during the term of sentence of said conviction, wouldn't we then sort of strike a balance between saying you can't vote while you were sentenced of serving your time? I mean, is that already in the act? Is it already in the act? I mean, can you vote from prison at this point?
Yes.
Okay, so would it not somewhat strike a balance if you put during the term of the sentence of said conviction, so you're not voting from prison, yet when you've served your time, you're restored to your rights to vote?
Now, that, and Madam Chairman, may I?
Please.
That could be harder to police than just finding whether you're a convicted felon or not. Because if you're talking about for the period of your maximum, let's say I pled guilty when I was 20 years old to armed robbery, which carries a maximum sentence of life.
And I appreciate that point. I think what I'm saying is forget the maximum sentence while you're serving time.
Let's say if you are currently incarcerated, you can't vote.
For a felony, and then use the other limiting, clarifying language about felony. Because then, Councilman, you'd at least be saying if you haven't paid your debt to society through the prison system, you're not going to vote in Cherokee elections. But at the same time, I think you can allow folks to vote after they've paid their debt. I mean, we could strike a balance here. I do think it's going to be tough to administer no matter how we write it. I mean, I don't know how other jurisdictions do it precisely, but I'm pretty sure that election boards will purge their list from time to time. We know what happened in Florida in about 1999, and they ended up purging their own folks and they denied people the right to vote. So it happens from the top. Lists are purged, and I think that's a pretty big burden to shoulder the Election Commission with.
Madam Chairman, if I might suggest, is that there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded to not allow this amendment. I would recommend we go ahead and vote on that, and Mr. Hoskin and I can get together, and if he wants to propose a new amendment, because we are talking about some detailed language, we have a motion on the floor, and I would think we just
Point of information.
There is a couple that have not had an opportunity to talk, and that's Dr. Cobb and Ms. Fitzinghall.
I am along the lines of Councilor Hoskin, but I can't help but go back to what Ms. Councilor Lloyd Jordan said. I'm not being an attorney. Does this possibly, during incarceration, so it's the Election Commission's job to find out if they're actually voting for McAllister or not. If we find out that somebody essentially broke the election code law and they actually did vote, does that open the election up to just constant challenges? That's my concern with all this. So I just did want to put that in. So thank you.
Yes, and Ms. Fitzinghall.
I just want to know the cost. If it's cost prohibitive to check. Does anybody know how much it costs to check to see if somebody is a felon? Per person, I'm saying it's $50.
Is that not? That's the last thing I heard.
To run a,
Go ahead.
to run a name used to be $50. I don't even know if sheriff's office still do it for you.
They won't do it for you. I mean,
They used to charge $50, so I don't know what a private source charges.
I was more concerned about how we was going to do this.
Are we going to police it, or?
How we was going to come up with the money and how we was going to go about going through the rolls. Because I know the state of Oklahoma lets people slip through it. I know other states have been in fights over Virgin rolls. I was just curious if anybody had any ideas of how we're going to do this.
Mr. Garvin?
Call for question.
Point of information.
Okay.
If we vote yes, then Hoskins can't bring back his, I just want to make sure it's clear. If we vote yes to remove this or not allow it, then Hoskins would not be allowed to bring it back another amendment. Is that correct?
no.
Or just this amendment?
Just that
a
is just
significant change.
Okay. Okay.
Any other
Madam
further
Chair.
discussion? The question's been called, and the motion is do not amend the election to a code to include section 21A4. Everybody clear? All in favor?
Not totally. What is
Don't
it?
include it.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Oh, we got two. You get two. Okay.
All right. Next, and this is one that was tabled from last month, is section 21. It says section 21C1, but it really should say section 21C2. Okay, it deals with at-large registered voters. Now, what was asked by Councilman Baker was to add language about registered or at-large people who lived outside the jurisdiction who actually chose to vote in district in accordance with the Constitution. So what I added is a sentence in 21C2, which is not in your packet, but if you follow me. It says at-large registered voters. Every at-large registered voter shall be registered to vote in the at-large district. And this is the new part. Unless said voter has elected to remain a voter in a district pursuant to Article 6, Section 3 of the Cherokee Nation Constitution, which is the applicable article and section. And then it continues on. An at-large registered voter shall have the right to vote for the candidate or candidates for the at-large districts. I think that would solve the problem.
Todd, would you repeat that one more time, please? Just the
Clarification before he does that.
Sure.
How does that pertain to or take care of the 18-year-old that lives in California, turns 18, and still has an opportunity to choose in district? Is it under that same section?
It's under that same section.
Okay. All right.
Get that.
Here's the underlined portion if you want me to reread it. Quote, unless said voter has elected to remain a voter in a district pursuant to Article 6, Section 3 of the Cherokee Nation Constitution.
Yeah, Mr. Hopkins?
And that also allows for, because for now on, if people are under 25, they can still elect to be out in a district. That still allows, that doesn't conflict with that.
No, that Article 6, Section 3 is a very long section that covers that whole kit and caboodle.
Do we need copies of that? It's not in our packet, is it?
That's the Constitution that he's looking at.
Oh, okay.
Move to approve with that language.
Clarification. I'd like to see the whole thing, not just this little part here, but the whole thing as it would be written if we included this small part.
You have that written, Todd, where we might have Robbie to copy it for everyone?
Okay, I would ask that we copy it for everyone so we have a clear understanding of how 21C2 will read. Is it going to be C2 plus this?
No, that's, I just reprinted this with that extra line.
Okay, if we could all see this and
Sure.
write.
And then we can go to another section, and I'll have this copy.
You're going on to the next one, 11B.
Yes, and that is also one that was tabled from last meeting, and she just took my...
Baker?
Yes, Madam Chair. Before we move forward,
Yeah.
there's one thing that isn't clear, is that if someone living within the nation moves outside the nation, then do they have the option of remaining a registered voter in the district in which they formerly lived? And that is not addressed in the Constitution. And I think that we need to somehow clarify that, give them the option or not.
Dr. Cobb?
That's a good point, and I would be in favor of that because, as most of you know, I know my colleague from the Keeler district is, we've got some issues with people didn't understand that situation, and I think that what you're describing is a similar situation. I think those people need to have the opportunity, if they move, to decide. The only problem that I foresee with that is moving in and out and in and out and in and out.
But it happens.
But it happens. So, that's a great point.
Mr. Baker? Bill John Baker.
I think the Constitution, and I know the law is clear, that if you move out of Cherokee County, then you have to register in Adair County, or you have to register in one of the other counties. Now, I agree, it's not clear on if you live in Cherokee County and you move to California. But like I say, it is pretty clear on if you move to Tulsa, to within the 14 counties, but if you move to Claremore, then you have to register, or you're supposed to register, shall register, to be a voter in the district in which you live. And so I'm having some trouble doing it one way for one class and another way for another class. But
Mr. Baker?
I was going to make a motion that we, if a person moves outside the Cherokee Nation,
That's currently living
that
in.
currently lives in the Cherokee Nation and is registered to vote within the Cherokee Nation, they have a one-time option of deciding whether to vote in the district in which they formerly resided or to vote at large. But it's a one-time option.
Are you making that motion?
Yes.
I second that.
Moved and seconded. Now, discussion, Mr. Hoskin?
Yeah, and I might be inclined to support that. I'm just wondering if that will run into constitutional problems. I mean, the section is not very well worded, and as a delegate, I've got to shoulder some responsibility for that.
And I will second that.
I think I was out of the room at the time.
I wish I could say I was absent that day, but I was there.
But, there's a sentence that says, notwithstanding the above, citizens under the age of 25 who reside outside the boundaries who have not previously registered shall make a single choice to register. I mean, it's almost as if the Constitution contemplates that if you reside outside, and not at the time of the first election, that's what the first sentence said. The second sentence doesn't say anything about the first election, it just said if you reside outside. It seems to be carving out an exception if you're under the age of 25. If you're over the age of 25, I'm not sure that exception's in the Constitution, and I'm just concerned that we might be legislating something that runs afoul of this, but again, it wouldn't be the first time it happens. We've got constitutional language that's not clear, and we can legislate. That's not my concern. Do you have any concern about that, whether we're his language is in any way inconsistent with what we've got here in this provision?
I just remember that the drafting of this section took almost, I think, more than a day, didn't it? On the Constitutional Convention, and it, you know, and it is a mess, and it is going to be hard to interpret. And reasonable minds can differ whether we met. If you're outside, you're outside, unless there's this one-time exception. So I think it's within this body's purview to do what they think is best, and if someone has a challenge to it, you know, that's why they have the people in the black robes. You know, go with it from there.
I don't think, Todd, did we do the right section here?
You did.
No.
It says 31A.
No, this is actually the second page. You should have 2 pages.
It's coming.
You should have 2 pages.
I thought we had a stake.
I thought so. Ms. Coates? Oh, I'm sorry, wait, Brad was first.
I'd like to ask, give me a kind of a scenario on this one time only, because what I'm seeing, I'm envisioning someone moving from Stillwell to California. Then they decide they're going to move back to Bartlesville. Then they move to Montana. Then they move to Locust Grove. You're talking about different districts. That's so one time. That one time phrase is what I'm trying to get a handle on here.
Mr. Baker?
Yes. Well, the way I envisioned was if they live within the nation or voting within the nation, they move out of the nation, then they have the choice, once they move out of the nation, either remain voting in the district in which they voted before or vote at large. But if they move back within the nation, they're required to vote in the district in which they live.
Okay, I'm just making
Again,
sure.
if they move it out again, then I would say that the same rule would apply.
Same rule would apply.
If they once again moved out of the nation, then they once again would have the election.
Okay, so one time means you can't move and then decide a year later, well, I've decided I want to, if you're still in California, you can't decide, well, I made a mistake, I want to vote here. It's just when you move back, every time, that's what I'm trying to get a handle on. Every time you move, you have that option. Is that kind of what I'm?
That would be the way I envision it.
Every time you touch base and then left. Right.
Ms. Coates?
I was intensely interested in this discussion at the convention 10 years ago. And one thing I very, very clearly recall from this is that this one-time choice that was offered if somebody moved out, and that those that already lived outside would have the one-time choice to remain in district. It was at the request of a delegate from Sacramento specifically, because his family had allotment lands that they still retained in trust in Delaware County, and he wanted to be able to continue to vote in Delaware County as a result, for that reason, because there was a very specific interest that his family still held. And I remember that being specifically the reason, really almost the single reason, that people were given this one-time opportunity as this new at-large district was being created. And I think that if we look at that kind of interest, as having been the driving force for saying that there's this choice one time, I would tend to agree with Mr. Baker that that sort of interest is going to continue to be there, no matter where an individual may live. And that those are most likely the people who will make that kind of choice to continue to vote in the district, that they will have some specific reason for doing so.
Anything further, Mr. Cobb? Ms. Glory Jordan?
Well, how does that play with the part of our rules that already says every resident registered voter shall be registered to vote in the district of his or her residence? It would appear to me if you reestablish a residence, just like if you move from the state of Oklahoma to the state of Arkansas, you re-register in Arkansas and you start voting in Arkansas. Would it not be better if our people moved to just let them vote at large instead of, I perceive, something like what Councilman Cobb just said, that we may have one that lives in Oklahoma, moves to California, comes back, moves to Montana. How many chances do you want to give them to stay voting here when they're moving all over the country? Seems to me that's why we have two good at-large counselors to represent the interest of those people that move. They get two counselors. I just think that if they move, they need to become part of your district, which is the rest of the world.
Ms. Calico? Would you like to comment on this, come forward and comment on this, since you've been around the election commission for a while?
Did you call me old?
No, Big John did.
Oh, yeah. I do know that is the way now, in the elections that I've served on, that it works. They live in Adair County, they're registered there, they move to Tahlequah, they move their registration and vote there. They move at large, they have that opportunity. The one-time thing was you can register to vote if you live in Dallas. Your family's here and this is where you came from, right here. Or you can remain at large, one-time choice. And that's already been completed. Now that's the way that I understand it's been done for a long time.
Any questions for Ms. Calico? Thanks. Julia, did you?
Oh, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to add it to the, thank you.
Do you have a comment?
I had a comment. Am I next in line? Okay. Yeah, okay. It's a brief comment. It's just that I wouldn't anticipate that the scenario is not impossible, of course, but I do think it's probably not going to be real commonplace of somebody that's, just moving in and out and in and out and in and out all that frequently. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Fulbright?
Well, I have a comment. Kind of refers back to Ms. Calico, what happened in the past. And the people that are on the border in Arkansas that were notified, supposedly they had the chance to remain voting over in the Sequoia district. A lot of them, when it came time to vote, still went over to Mulder. I thought they said they'd never received their letters. Their address was bad. Perhaps they had moved and they felt like they were sort of disenfranchised because I was 96 years old. They live over in Fort Smith. They've been voting in Muldrow for the last 36 years, and they said they didn't receive a letter. And I just didn't think it worked out very well for all these people that live next to the border and have always continued to vote inside the Cherokee Nation. They sort of felt like, I have a lot of them that said they didn't receive the notice. So I think it's a good idea to let them have one chance to remain where they want.
This doesn't pertain to that, don't you know?
Well,
It's not talking about.
I know it, but I'm just saying, but what he's saying is from that, in the future, that if you moved out, you would have the opportunity to remain.
Dr. Cobb?
I just want to be clear. I'm in agreement with you. But did I understand that that's what you're saying is what's being done right now? Is that not what I heard? Because my point to that was, do we need to be even doing anything? Because
Correct. It is done like that at the present time.
You're doing, yeah, what you said is being done right now, and that's correct. What the Baker amendment, if I'm understanding correctly, is to give people who currently I live in Adair County. Let's say I live in Adair County. and I'm going to move to Evansville, Arkansas. Okay. I get a one-time only shot to keep voting in Adair County. Okay. That'd be the proposed amendment. Okay.
That is if you do that today, if you move today, because you're registered in Adair County right now, within the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me make one comment, okay, because I think we'll need to.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we only have 4 minutes.
And I we really need to draft that very carefully, because one thing that pops up into my mind right away is that's a denial. Someone could attack that on a constitutional bound, saying that that's a denial of equal protection. That at-large people are treated better under this law than a person living within the jurisdiction. If I live in Cherokee County and I move to Veneta, I got no choice. I can't remain down there. But here I am. It's treating citizens in the same situation differently, and we got to really look closely at that.
Or Jordan?
Motion table.
And Todd, we have a motion to table and a second. Can you come up with some language?
I'm going to work with Mr. Baker to make sure that all minds are clear on the amendment for the next go around.
Or Jordan, before we vote, do you have a comment on this?
We do need some research done, because I had thought of the very same thing he did. If we move from Cherokee to Adair County, we're not going to get to do this, but if we move from Cherokee County to Oklahoma City, we can. I think we're setting ourselves up for a challenge now that we're not treating people equally.
All in favor of tabling this to the next meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Todd.
Cherokee meeting.